Hi, Steph. How are you doing? Welcome back to my channel, everyone. My name is Aireonna. Today I'm here with Steph Sanchez. A little bit of a different day, but still after a victory Monday, and more importantly, in my opinion, than beating the Commanders, because I don't want to say that was to be expected, but fingers crossed, we hoped so. But the 49ers get that number one seed and they are, I want to say, off and rolling to the playoffs, but it's actually going to be kind of a funny road to the playoffs now that week 18, not so much on the line. And I didn't expect that in the way that I thought the 49ers would win, but I did not expect the Cardinals just to beat the Eagles. Jonathan Gannon got some get back on his former team, which is funny because everyone was like really blaming him for that Super Bowl loss in Philadelphia, and I bet that was a good game for him to win. And who knew that the Cardinals were going to help out the 49ers? How are you feeling this week, Steph?
I mean, I'm feeling great. It's a new year. The 49ers are the one seed. The first day of the year was a victory Monday. I mean, you can't really ask for a better start to the new year. And yeah, I mean, the way that the 49ers got the number one seed was better than we all expected because I was fully prepared for the 49ers to have to go into this game against the Rams in a must win situation. I am so glad that is not the case. Now, both teams talking about, potentially resting some guys or at least not playing the full game. So, both teams kind of going to be going into it like, preseason game. And I think that too is best case scenario for the 49ers. But I'm obviously happy how this weekend turned out.
Definitely. Before we get into that, I felt like it would be smart coming off that Commanders game to give a little bit of an injury update. Going into that game, I felt like what was most important was that the 49ers didn't suffer any major injuries. And scarily enough, Christian McCaffrey did go out of the game. Now, I think if it was up to him, he would have came back out, but luckily now they have 3 weeks rest for him. He has a calf strain for anyone who hasn't heard. Now, the reason that, in my opinion, is concerning is because even though it was said as like a mild calf strain, that's connected to the Achilles. I live out in the Bay Area. I remember when Kevin Durant had a mild calf strain and then ruptured his Achilles. So definitely a little bit scary, but looks like and if you remember last week, not against the Commanders, but the week before that, Chris McCaffrey went out and it looked like he was like putting his knee back together. So I just think rest is going to be really helpful for all of these guys, especially the guys like Christian McCaffrey who don't want to go out of the game unless they are forced to. And it feels like in this organization, Christian McCaffrey might call his own shots there. So not that we're grateful for an injury, but we're grateful for, basically 2 bye weeks. So Christian
Mhm.
McCaffrey has that calf strain. He'll get to rest that. Ambry Thomas had surgery on his hand. Now he was playing with a club on his hand in last game. I think he gave up one pretty brutal pass if I can remember. But aside from that, he's talk about like one of the most improved players on the team. He's done fantastic. And Kyle Shanahan in his press conference seemed to have like no concerns that he would be able to come back in that Rams game if he needed to, if they end up playing their starters for some amount of time there. Um, so it doesn't seem like a big deal. Now it does sound like he'll be playing with that cast on, but maybe by the time the playoffs come, or at least the Super Bowl, it might be off. So that's an update on Ambry Thomas. That corner position, kind of scary. Jair Brown will have an extra couple of weeks to heal that MCL strain that he had. And then Raver McLeod can return to practice this week, so that's really good. Um, yeah, so also we need to pay attention to Jawan Jennings because he's still in the
Yeah.
concussion protocol. I'm like so worried about him because he hasn't even been at practice, which is like step 3 of the 5-step protocol.
It's a
So I
good point.
really hope he's doing okay, just like brain wise, body. Like I feel like we get so accustomed to kind of, oh, they have an MCL strain, they're gonna rough through it. But when it comes to concussions, that's a little bit more scary, especially with someone like Juwan, who I can say, like, I feel like if it was an MCL, he would tough through it. Like, he's a really hard-nosed player, so in my opinion, I think if it was something he could push through, he would, which makes me feel like it's pretty serious. And I'm really glad that the NFL has more protocols around that to not let guys kind of push through that.
Yeah.
Additionally, there's the Eric Armstead. He still is suffering with that plantar fasciitis. Are you anticipating that he'll push through when the playoffs come, or do you think maybe they'll have him wait for the Super Bowl? Kind of up in the air, just depending on how he feels that week. How are you feeling about the loss of him on this
I
defense?
I think the plan was to shut him down for the rest of the regular season and then, come playoff time, see how he's feeling. But I would assume he would want to push through that. I mean, this type of injury, what he's dealing with, it's very painful, but it's mostly just pain tolerance, right? There are some things that, football players can do to, lighten up the pain a little bit. Adrenaline, I'm sure, does help, but after that wears off, you get into that pain again. So
So
I think having the number one seed for the 49ers helps Eric Armstead a lot. There's less pressure for him to be back until the divisional round, of course. And then you have 2 games, and then if you win those 2 games, you go to the Super Bowl. So if he can just tough it out for 3 games, 2 to 3 games, like, I think that's a situation that they're kind of expecting for Eric. But going back to Juwan Jennings, yeah, I think it's an interesting one, because I think we've even grown accustomed to concussions being like, okay, it's a concussion, he's gonna miss a week. But like anytime it goes further than that, it's like, whoa, like
when he
that's not right.
first when he was first out, the first game that he missed, it was going to be a Monday because it was the Christmas game. And I remember in the beginning of the week being like, oh, like there's probably a chance he can go because like there's an extra day. And we're so like that happened with Brock Purdy earlier on in the week
Right.
when it was
Yeah.
an extra day because I think it was a Monday game for the week that Brock Purdy was going into the protocol too. And the same thing happened with him. He was able to play. So you're right, when it's extra like that. I don't know if you've ever had a concussion before. I've had one in my lifetime, or at least one that like was bad enough for me to really notice. And it bothered me for like it seriously bothered me for 2 weeks. But I want to say like a month later, I could not go. I like had to go. My mom goes to like an old person gym, and I go to like a loud one where they're like blasting music. It's like more CrossFitty, and it's like really loud and bright. I could not go to
Hmm.
my like a month later, my head would still just be like it was crazy. It was
Yeah.
so, and obviously that has, nothing compared to like getting hit by a 300-pound man. So I really hope he's good. Michael Mandela, or yeah, Mandia, sorry if I pronounced that wrong, said, is there any worry or rumblings that Eric Armstead will be shut down for the playoffs too? Like Steph said, it's kind of a pain tolerance thing, but I depending on how the D line does in his absence, I imagine that I think it'll be a week to week thing. I think that they're not even going to try until the playoffs, and then they'll probably push him in practice the week before the first playoff game to really test to see maybe what he'd be capable of. I'm sure that they'll probably, I don't know if I'm allowed to say it, but like they'll probably give him like Toradol or whatever, um, and see maybe if he can push through. And it might be one of those things where he goes out for a series, test it out. If he can push through, I think he will. If not, then they might end up taking him off. Um, yeah, I don't know. Last year with that injury, he missed 8 games.
I
So
thought it was 6. Yeah, 8. Okay.
it
And
was,
so we're getting to that
that's right.
point,
It was
right? Where
8 weeks because
it's
he missed 1 week, tried again the next week, ended up leaving that game, and then
gotcha. Yeah.
Then he missed like 6 consecutive, but one of them was a bye week.
Yes. You're
So
right. Yeah. Okay.
yeah,
So in calendar time, it was like 8 weeks pretty much that he missed. Yeah, and that's good to kind of keep in the back of our minds, because similar situation. I think it's going to be around that 6 week mark, if he comes back for the divisional round.
which is really nice that when we talk about the bye week. And really quickly, I just want to, I normally don't do this, but I did want to shout out a bunch of Victor. I originally had the stream for yesterday, but my computer, I'm so dumb. I thought my camera wasn't working and I like restarted it a bunch of times and like did a bunch of things. There's literally like a physical lever. I drove my computer down to Best Buy and the guy at Gates World looked at me like, you are a he just like moved it over and he was like, here you go. And I was like, sick. I'm flying to New York and I'm moving states now after this. That's how embarrassed I am. But so Victor said, what's up? Ty said, what's up, Faithful? Hey, Ash and Steph. There was just a lot of people in the comments that were saying Happy New Year. And hey, Anthony said that he appreciated us. Happy New Year, Bang Bang Niner Gang. Just with the new year, I just wanted to give appreciation for everyone saying hi. But yeah, so injury-wise, is there anyone that you're concerned about when it comes to the playoffs? And then this also might lead us into the rust versus rest debate and Deebo Samuel's comments on the Kay Adams show, because I do think he gave some insight into maybe Kyle Shanahan's plan. But if you were Kyle Shanahan, would there be anyone that you were really gonna hold out altogether, not playing any snaps?
I think, yeah, obviously the guys who are injured, so Christian McCaffrey, Jair Brown, also Ambry Thomas, those guys I would keep out of this game, of course, and obviously Eric Armstead, and maybe even Juwan Jennings. I don't know, maybe. Although if Ayuk or Deebo Samuel doesn't play the full game, you might want Juwan Jennings in there. I don't know, but anyway, I would say Trent is one of those guys that I would definitely, maybe keep out. Possibly
And the
Nick
thing with
Bosa.
Jennings is he's already missed some time. So, like,
Yeah,
does that rust
exactly.
debate go further with him or no?
Well, okay, so here's the thing. Here's how I look at the rust versus rest debate. Who are players who I trust that you're going to have 2 weeks off are going to still be able to come back, once we're ready for the divisional round, you're going to come back. You're not going to have bad practice habits. You're not going to be rusty for that divisional game. Like who could you trust to not be rusty? I could think of a couple players who I wouldn't trust, and I'm not gonna say him, but his
Devo.
name, yeah. I mean, you said it for me. But that's just one example, right? Like that's a good example, maybe an extreme example. But Kyle Shanahan, this coaching staff kind of knows their players, I think, enough to know, maybe this guy can use, this game. Maybe they need to be out there. Maybe, 2 weeks is a little too much for this player. So I'll say that, and I'll also say, and I've said it over and over again, mathematically, it's impossible to rest every player, right? So Kyle Shanahan is going to have some guys out there who we're going to be like, why is he out? Like, why is he playing in that game? It's meaningless. He shouldn't be out there, blah, blah, blah. But the reality of it is, again, it is mathematically impossible to rest every starter. Some of them are going to be important players, but they're still going to have to play even a little bit in this game. And also, again, you got to weigh the rust versus rest thing, and definitely don't want to, risk any rust either in that divisional game. So it's
Would
just
you
having that
play
balance.
would you play like Aaron Banks? Because I'm thinking like obviously the
Yes.
guys, because you said like Christian McCaffrey, like the guys who are literally injured, but I'm thinking what about guys who maybe have been nursing injuries?
Like
You know
Trent
what I mean?
Williams, for example, was injured,
Yeah. But then
has
that
had
kind of goes
injuries.
into you're not playing Trent Williams. Are you going to play Purdy? You know what I mean? Because like
I get the concern with that. I mean, definitely, and that's part of like what you're kind of weighing, right? I think if Purdy does play, he's probably going to play a half. I don't see him like finishing that game.
I was
And
gonna
if you do rest Trent, I mean, hopefully Jalen Moore would be available. He's been dealing with a concussion too, right? But I think I'd expect Jalen Moore to be available, and he can definitely start at left tackle. He's serviceable, Not your favorite option aside from like Trent, obviously, but you could probably play a half and Purdy would be okay, hopefully.
Michael says if Trent doesn't play, Purdy shouldn't be sitting in the pocket at all. So some debates going on with with our opinions. And then Debo said that the starters are playing. He's not sure how long. He did say that on the Kay Adams show. Kind of came out and just said it. I wonder if it's because, I don't know if you heard it, but Sean McVay also in the Rams do like a little like sit down podcast with Sean McVay. They did it. I remember watching it last year too. But they asked him and he kind of said that his game plan was to rest a lot of his starters. So I wonder if him and Kyle maybe are going to communicate about that. They, used to work together, used to be friends. I don't know how that works. I know that I feel like coaches do that sometimes, like in preseason,
Yeah,
because you
I
kind of
mean,
talked about it being like that. But I don't know how much they would be doing that right now. I feel like in season, coaches turn into like, they're not collaborating really with each other. But maybe if both of them really are looking at this more like a preseason game, then maybe they'd be more open to doing that sort of collaboration. Maybe saying like, okay, we're not gonna blitz, like maybe they could ask for certain things or
right.
something like that. Do you believe in that? Is that a thing? Like, I don't know, maybe I'm making that up as a fan.
I mean, I don't know if it's a thing, but if it would ever be a thing, it would be this, right? Like Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, they're boys, like they're friends. Like, so I think that's definitely on the table. I mean, if I were Kyle, I'd definitely be hitting, Sean up and being like, hey, can we try to negotiate to get all our starters out in one piece and maybe just have them play a half here in this game? They can definitely do that, I think. I think it would be weird or, rub players the wrong way if Sean McVay told his team or Kyle told his team like, hey, we're not going to hit anyone like don't hit anyone too hard. Like that's just weird. That goes
Yeah,
against
like it's not gonna be
everything
like
that,
a Pro Bowl game.
yeah, exactly. Like that goes against everything you tell your football team to do, but at the same time, like I think you could just be like, "Hey, like no
Also,
dirty
like
stuff."
that, in my opinion, almost could lead to like injury in a different way because now they're
Yeah,
playing the game
you're
differently than
right.
they would
Yeah.
normally practice. Like I feel like if it's one of those things where if you're playing, you want to play. And if you're resting, you want to rest. You don't want to do like some weird in between thing where there's a mix of a lot of backups that could be clumsy and where you're trying to hit but not trying to go 100%. Because like your body over time, the reason that they have this practice and they have the preseason and they have training camp, it's like to get your body into that football playing ability, football shape. You don't want to, I don't know, I just feel like when you're doing half, you're trying to tackle but also kind of trying to hold yourself back a little bit. Like that can lead to a different type of injury maybe than like what we've been
Yeah.
expecting. I think it sucks, but you kind of have to like have the mindset that like if it was a normal game and someone got injured, you'd have to adjust and live with that. And you have to kind of think about this game in the same way. Like I've heard some people say, like, if Brock Purdy plays and then gets injured, like Kyle Shanahan would get crushed. And it's like, well, if this game mattered and Brock Purdy got injured, that would suck too. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think you can. I don't necessarily agree that you can just like hold everyone out and then hope that it's all good. I do think they should only play for a quarter or for a half. You want to play enough
Mhm.
where you can practice all week long, you can, get a good amount of energy and physicality out, but then like you can kind of pull back and the 49ers luckily have kind of been able to do this in the fourth quarter anyways, a lot of their games, but maybe starting that a little bit earlier. Now, there is that problem is if you pull guys and then one of your backups get hurt, then do starters have to go back in? I remember against that Lions game, this was years ago now, that happened with Nick Bosa, and he said that made him way more concerned about injuries because you kind of like mentally check out of the game and your body kind
Mhm.
of cools down so to go back into it. So there's a lot of I'm glad that I'm not a coach because there's actually a lot more that goes into this, I think, than
Yeah, for
people
sure.
people expect. I see a lot in the comments just like rest everyone, only play backups. That's not, you can only bring two players up from the practice squad, so there's literally not enough players to only play backups the whole
Yeah.
game.
Yeah, I mean, I again, I think the only thing that maybe Kyle and Sean McVay should kind of agree on is like, okay, at what point in this game they're gonna decide to take the starters out. But yeah, I agree with you. I think it's a little much to ask them to change the way they play, change, their level of effort, how they tackle things like that. Like, I don't think that would go well. And you make the great point about, could that lead to more injuries? Yeah, we definitely don't want that, right? So I think as long as they can agree on, when that'll take place in the game, be smooth sailing from there. But I do agree with the aspect of, some players just kind of need to be out there to keep that momentum going, and then they can carry that into the playoffs.
Sorry, I was putting someone. I've never done that before. I just put someone in timeout. I like that. That's such
I'm
a fun.
proud of you. I'm proud of you because I saw that comment and I was like, tisk tisk, Robbie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Michael said Rams are playing hard since they're playing for seeding position. They're actually not. I think the way that it turned out in the NFC West, the teams that they've beaten and the fact that the 49ers are already the number 1 seed, that's why Sean McVay went on the podcast and said what he said. Both teams are kind of solidified in their position no matter which team wins or loses. So that's the one positive thing, and that's why we are even like kind of talking about there might be an option where they would be working together on this. But yeah, I am interested. I now with Christian McCaffrey out, I think we saw a lot of Elijah Mitchell. He performed really well, and he's always. I feel like Elijah Mitchell, the narrative around him is difficult because one, we have seen Jordan Mason play so well when he has gotten his opportunities. So there is kind of this like, and it feels kind of wrong that he hasn't been given more opportunities. So I think part of it is like there's a camp that wants to see more Jordan Mason, and then because of that, like Elijah Mitchell kind of gets slighted, and then also because Elijah Mitchell has been so injured, I just don't think we've seen it as much of him as we did his rookie year, where it was like really prevalent in fans' minds how well he was performing. But with the loss of, not the loss, but with Christian McCaffrey resting, thank goodness. Which, I mean, thinking about how well they came out of the bye week in the regular season makes me really excited for this. When you're talking about players you trust, you know that Christian McCaffrey is going to come out so ready.
Oh yeah.
For the playoffs. But I'm really excited to see a healthy dose of Elijah Mitchell and Jordan Mason. Now, some people have speculated. Do you think that Christian McCaffrey's injury is an overuse thing, and they should have been utilizing Elijah Mitchell and Jordan Mason more, or do you think that this is kind of just a fluke thing? Good opportunity to see the younger guys, and knock on wood, luckily it seems like we skipped a major injury with Christian McCaffrey. So hopefully going on the playoffs, it'll work out with rested Christian McCaffrey and 2 running backs that both got a little bit of steam in this game.
Yeah, I think part of the reason that Elijah Mitchell, we haven't seen him out there this season is just because he's been hurt. And like that's kind of been the only thing that's gotten in his way. He's a really great back when, he gets his opportunities when he's healthy, right? We've seen it. His rookie year, we saw it. And I really think the 49ers would love to have that 1-2 punch available with the both of them. Unfortunately, like their time being healthy together, mostly because of Elijah Mitchell's availability, hasn't always, been there. That time hasn't overlapped. So, I mean, yeah, we're going to get a healthy dose, no pun intended, a healthy dose of Elijah Mitchell on Sunday with Christian McCaffrey out. But I would love to see more of it. I love to see more of it in the playoffs too, because I think that this last injury that Elijah Mitchell had, I feel like he was kept out of games maybe a little bit more than he
Necessary?
yeah, because I feel like they originally said it was going to be like a couple week thing, and I feel like he missed way more than that, and they were holding
Yeah.
him out of practice as well. And so I feel like that was to get him at 100% for this, stretch for the playoff run. And so, I mean, yeah, that's great for the 49ers because if he can be healthy, he's going to be that 1A, 1B potentially. I mean, he has a talent to be that for this team. Now, as far as the usage of Christian McCaffrey goes, I haven't had a problem with it. I don't think it has led to any injuries. Like, you see Christian McCaffrey has a lot of nicks and bruises, but he plays through whatever he feels he can, and most of the time he feels he could play through anything. That guy's crazy. It almost makes me wonder if, when he was with Carolina, like, were coaches just letting him go back in because like he
Right? Like
wanted to go back so bad, and that's why he kept dealing with injuries in Carolina. Like, he hasn't had the number
that.
of injuries. Yeah, he hasn't had the number of injuries with the 49ers, and I'm gonna knock on wood, my little 49ers like wood thing, because I hope that continues. But yeah, like I almost feel
If
like
he breaks
that's
his
part of the
leg
reason.
next game, we're throwing tomatoes at Steph's house.
I knocked on wood. I am safe. Uh, but yeah, like I think the 49ers have done a good job of saving McCaffrey from himself when it's come to that. Like this past game, keeping him out of that one when they got a good look at him, and I was like, no, man, you're not going back in. So I think the 49ers have found a good balance of his usage while also like protect him a little too.
I don't know if it's me, but you just got so quiet, just to let you know.
Did I?
Yeah.
Oh,
Let me know in the comments if Steph's mic just like completely broke off or not. Maybe maybe it's just
broke
me.
off.
Um,
Yeah, haven't changed anything, but
okay. Well, that could just be me. Sorry about that. Um, when kind of looking ahead since this week 18 game, in my opinion, was going to be really interesting, and
mhm.
I thought it was going to be a really hard game. I think Matthew Stafford is one of the best quarterbacks in NFC West. What team are you most scared to face in the NFC for the playoffs? So the pathway, the title of my stream was the pathway to a 49ers Super Bowl victory. Well, before we get to the Super Bowl, they have to get through the playoffs, and I think that because we've seen such a dominance, there's kind of this air of like sigh, like kind of breathing out, just like, okay, they
Mhm.
get the bye week, they're just gonna cruise to the Super Bowl. But if there were to be some hiccups, some bumps along the road, which teams would you be most scared to face? We've seen a couple interesting games the last week. We saw the Lions, Eagles, Cowboys, all those. So what teams would you prefer to face? Which teams would you maybe want to avoid, if possible?
Yeah, and I'm trying to pull up the current like playoff picture. Obviously the 49ers are in the 1 seed. But there's the Cowboys, there's the Lions, the Rams have clinched their playoff spot. So just for Eagles, of course, and then there's a couple players, teams on the hunt who, this final week can help dictate that. But the Bucks and Packers probably can squeeze in too. So from those list of teams, the 49ers have won against all of those teams this season. So I'd feel pretty confident in a rematch. But there's a
I was
reason
thinking
that
about the Lions, but then
yeah,
I
so
was
that
reading
one's an interesting one.
right because like I know that my okay Jared Goff, in my opinion,
Hmm.
Kyle Shanahan could potentially put him in a blender. So like it's hard to judge teams, right? Because we've seen the Lions offense, and I've been really impressed. I really like Dan Campbell's aggressiveness. I think he got a lot of shit in that last game for not ending up taking the points. But when you go back, the Lions didn't have a timeout anymore. So I think once they made the decision to go for it, I think that they kind of had to commit to that. Maybe I'm wrong and they could have switched it to taking the field goal and playing for overtime. But the way that, because I saw a lot of like controversy about that, people were happy that he tried to go
Mhm.
for it at the beginning. Also, though, I think and this goes back to like coach versus quarterback, like even though people gave him a lot of shit for going for it after they got the penalty and then going for it again, if Jared Goff makes a good pass there, they like going for it was the right option. It was a good play call. Like they could have won that game right there.
Yeah.
Um,
I didn't watch that game, but I
so I just watched
obviously
a
I
little
saw
bit.
the whole I saw
I
what
didn't,
people were saying about it. But I'm not scared of the Lions. I'm not scared of the Cowboys. Um,
but
I
the Lions
am
are not good against play action in their defense, which is like
Yeah, their
so that
defense
makes
is
them not
not
scary.
like as strong as you would have thought. Like I think early in the season, we all thought like the Lions defense, whoa, scary. Same thing with the Cowboys. Like they have their defense is kind of fizzled out. Like all of the other NFC teams, and actually Akash just put a tweet out on this, but like all the NFC teams, like since the bye week, they're or the bye week or like mid season, they're I think is it
Is
DVOA
Green
or just
Bay
they
is
just
Green Bay
haven't
in the
been ranked
playoffs?
very high. Here's
Really
what he
quickly,
said.
is I don't think it, maybe they have one of those things where if they win week 18 they can get in. But I was just reading this and I was like, I don't know if Green Bay
Oh.
is in the playoffs yet. Um, but their defense does not scare me at all.
So
Look at you.
yeah, put this yeah, so
I love when
here's
you
a
do this.
cautious tweet. Since week 10, here's the defensive EPA per play ranks of NFC playoff teams. Cowboys are number 14, Lions number 26,
That's
um,
crazy.
Bucks number 18, Eagles 30th, Rams 13th, Packers 25th. So, yeah, I mean, I think all of these defenses could be had.
Who
The
is
one
the
team
who's the coordinator for the Rams again? It's the same guy that it's been for a long time, right? He needs to be like a head coach or something. They're 13th. Isn't their
yeah,
only good
Raheem
player
Morris.
Aaron Donald on defense? Like that's crazy.
Yeah, oh, Sean McVay has done a hell of a job with this Rams team this season. Like going into this year, I was like, dude, this is like a bottom 5 roster in the NFL. There's so many young players, so many like rookies, so many guys from like their last 2 drafts, and they put them all together and they've hit a stride, and that's why I was worried about the week 18 game if it was going to be a must-win game between these two teams. But I still kind of feel like that's the 49ers, maybe a team that I wouldn't want to face. But I quite frankly, I don't know if they get to face the 49ers. We'll see. Although I think if the NFL, if the standings stand as they are right now, the seeding, the Lions would have to play the Rams,
I
and
know.
I think the script writers would want the Rams to win that one. I don't know. There's just this gut feeling I have.
I like that. Why do okay? Why do I? Maybe it's like you know when you see like an underdog or like a team. Like I felt this way about the Jaguars for a while, and I
Mhm.
feel this way about the Lions. Like even though it was better for the Lions to lose against the Cowboys, and I was like rooting for that in a 49er fan way, in a like NFL way, I wanted the Lions to win. You know what I mean? So if the
Yeah.
Rams and the Lions face off, I want the Lions to win because I'm like they just suck. So just give them like it's just very storybook to have them do well. Um, but
Okay,
yeah, I
what
mean the
was the
Rams.
matchup?
I think what's most important, and I do once again I appreciate Dan Campbell's aggressiveness, but I think that the Rams would have a coaching advantage there, and then also a quarterback advantage there
Oh yeah.
with Stafford and Jared Goff for sure. Um, and then Stafford going back to Detroit. Yeah, that's we were talking about that.
So again, like
Um,
that would set up the 49ers. I think they would play, so let's just say the Lions and the Rams play, and then the Rams beat the Lions, then the 49ers would play the Rams in the divisional round, right?
Now, does that scare you? Someone in the comments were saying they had a little bit of PTSD from the former NFC Championship game.
Yeah, I mean, it would scare me because the Rams are doing more with less. So what else can they do? Like what can they get better? Like, yeah, I think like I said, they're hitting a stride. Obviously, the 49ers are
And
the
it
more
just feels like
talented
Sean McVay
team.
and Kyle Shanahan know each other. Like
That
those
too. I mean,
traditional
yeah,
games and
it's a
games
chess
where
match. It's a chess match.
it is, it
But,
is. And I
you
feel like
know,
when we used to say that, we used to be able to say like Kyle Shanahan is always on Sean McVay's head. But I agree
yeah,
with that commentator. There's a little bit of PTSD where you're like, well, I guess every once in a while Sean McVay can get it.
that
Um,
that's just not one I'd want to play because Stafford looks better this year. He looks healthier this year than he did last year. And I don't know. I think I just think it'd be interesting, but not
and they
not in the go. Like it
when
make me
we played the
stress.
Rams, when we played the Rams earlier this season, what was the score? I just heard
Yeah, that
someone
was
talking about this.
week. Was that week 4
Yeah.
or
Well,
yeah, week
hold
4?
on.
Because that was the week
Yeah, so
before we
the
played the
49ers,
Cowboys.
I'm sorry, the Rams only lost by 7, and that was without Cooper Kupp.
That was without Cooper Cup,
And
and
like
they
they
hadn't
weren't even a
really
squad.
like figured out their roster yet. Like they hadn't really like. There's a lot of young players again, like I said, and I don't know. There's just been a lot that they've figured out since then, and so that's why
Yeah.
they're where they're at right now.
And then what about the Cowboys? How do you, because Dak Prescott has the opportunity to be a good quarterback. The reason that the Cowboys don't scare me, one, complete lack of physicality in and I know that the 49ers, when we came off that Ravens game, people were like, okay, well, the 49ers as tough as we think they are, but compared to Dallas, the 49ers definitely beat them in the toughness department. And then also I just Mike McCarthy in the playoffs. They've just had the most hilarious endings the last 2 years. I just feel like I even in that last game that they ended up winning, that his clock management was crazy. You just said you didn't watch that game. They had the opportunity to not even let the Lions have the ball again, and Mike McCarthy just like kicked a field goal randomly. He was so bad at closing out that game that I just feel like it is one of those teams that, although will be, in my opinion, a good game, I have confidence that the 49ers could win that matchup. So I'm not as scared of the Cowboys as I am for the Ravens when we're talking, or for the Rams when we're talking NFC. Now, if the 49ers do make it to the playoffs, or make it to, if they make it to the playoffs, because they're all gonna hitch a bus away from it now. They're definitely making it there. If they make it to the Super Bowl, they have to win 2 games to get to the Super Bowl, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So so they'd have to be 2 teams. So they'd have to be the Rams. What would be the first team? Would it be like an easier team potentially? No, it
Well,
wouldn't be like the Bucks, or right? Is
so
there
the
an
49ers
opportunity for like the Bucks, or they skip that because of the bye week?
the 49ers would play the lowest seeded team. Um so technically, let's see. I think so
Can I ask you just a chaos question? What happens if the 49ers lose the first round? Are people just
I
burning buildings down?
mean,
It's just bad.
it would be bad. It would be bad. I guess that goes to the conversation of like, is it a disappoint? Would it be a disappointment if the 49ers don't get to the Super Bowl, don't win a Super Bowl? Like we ask that every time, right? I think last
Yeah.
year I said no, like it wouldn't be a disappointment. And the reason I said that was because like after Jimmy Garoppolo went out with his injury and we had Brock, I think early on we weren't so sure that the 49ers would be able to like get to the playoffs and be
It felt like
as
a
good.
miracle, like it was like
Yeah,
storybook that they had even gotten to where they had been.
exactly. So in my head, I was like, I don't think I'd call it a disappointment just because, you're playing with a rookie quarterback, all those things. But now, seeing what Brock has been able to do in his second year, seeing what this team has done, and all the pieces they have, yes, it would absolutely be a disappointment if this team does not win the Super Bowl.
This is such a knock on wood show. Ty said stop speaking bad juju. I'm just considering different outcomes. The show originally was gonna be like, oh, the 49ers gonna get the number 1 seed, but then they got that. So now I'm thinking about this. I think it would be a huge disappointment. I'm gonna veer off a little bit, but I am gonna ask you kind of about the Super Bowl window, Trent Williams. I mean, right now, Eric Armstead for the second season in a row is set to miss a minimum of 6 games. Do you think even if Brock Purdy is the franchise quarterback, or at least for his rookie deal, he continues to be this good, is this the best opportunity for the 49ers to win a Super Bowl if they don't make it this year? Do you have confidence that they could run it back next year? Because this is an aging team. George Kittle, that knee that he got freaking rammed into against the Commanders. Obviously, they do have some younger guys. I assume that they're going to try to keep Brandon Ayuk around. He's been amazing. But yeah, when I look on the defensive side of the ball, at least the defensive line, that O-line, I do feel like, and with how the rest of the NFL is playing right now, I feel like getting it done this year seems more important than ever.
Yeah, I mean, and that's why I say like it would be a huge disappointment because with this group of players, um, I think this is the best chance. You don't know how much longer Trent plans to play,
Yeah.
and for the 49ers to continue to go this far like into their season, into the playoffs and not be able to win a Super Bowl, like that takes a toll on your body, right? And the
Did
49ers have
you
had Trent
that
for a couple
before?
of years
Like they've
now, but
played like almost a whole extra season if you count like all the playoff games that they've played over the last couple of years, 4 years.
yeah, I mean, it builds up, right? So, yeah, I mean, you don't know who's going to be here next year. A lot of things can change between now and then. So, I think obviously it's too early to say like is this a team that can go back? We always have confidence in this team and we're going to continue to have confidence in Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy being as good as he has been, I think has given us hope that yeah, I think this window is going to be able to stay open a little bit longer. But, that's also dependent on a number of other things as well. So a little too early to say. But yeah, I think right now is what we need to focus on. And that right now is their best opportunity.
Who would the Bucks have to be? Who are they set to play right now? Do you know? This would be an interesting situation
So
playing the
the
Bucks and then the
Bucks,
Lions.
the
So
Bucks are
Lions would have to beat the
currently in the
Rams.
hunt. Yeah, they're
Yeah,
they're in the
I think
hunt
it's,
right now.
oh, there you go. Well, that would be interesting. But back to the original question before I kind of veered off with the Super Bowl window. Which team would you be most afraid of playing in the Super Bowl? Would it be the Ravens or Steph? This is me interviewing you. Would it be Joe Flacco coming back to ruin the 49ers dreams again?
Dude, man.
I don't even know if that's a possibility. I think it is right now. But yeah, then also for me, I feel like the Chiefs, no matter how bad they're doing, I feel like much like how as a 49er fan, I'm not scared of the Dallas Cowboys. I feel like that's how the Chiefs feel about the 49ers. Like they're like, we just beat you every time. And they do have a good defense. They have a good coach. They have a good quarterback. So no matter what chaos is going on, to me, you always have to at least respect that team. But yeah, so if you were to pick out of all the AFC teams, which team would you least like to play in the Super Bowl?
Yeah, like obviously assuming the 49ers get there, okay, I would say I mean, biasly speaking, I have to go with the 49ers being the favorite in any matchup, right? I would like to see a matchup with the Ravens cuz obviously like I think it would go differently than that game went a couple weeks ago just because some of those interception. I don't like the word fluky, but like some of those interceptions 9 times out of 10 like would fall differently.
I did say after that game that I felt like if the 49ers played that game, they would probably win like 5 or 6 times out of 10. Because it just like
That's
they were
fair.
in that game with like in the second half with like 3 interceptions. They were in that game by like 4 points. Even
Mhm.
after 5 interceptions, it looked like Sam Darnold might make a comeback if he could freaking make a pass. I know that some people say that interception wasn't super on him, but it does feel like we haven't really seen Brock Purdy have not even feel like Brock Purdy has never thrown that many interceptions. So it does feel like if you were to redo that game again, even with the same game plan, which people have argued that they could have had an even better game plan, but even with that game plan, they weren't far from winning for a majority of the game. So I agree that that could be that would feel like a really satisfying win. And maybe it doesn't matter which team, any Super Bowl win is a Super Bowl win. But yeah, if the 49ers win a Super Bowl and in the process they kind of like slay that dragon, like if it's not like a fluke, like some other team beats the Ravens and then the 49ers beats that, the 49ers beat the Ravens, the narrative is not only that the 49ers won the Super Bowl, but like they are the best team in the NFL. They just beat like because that was kind of the question going in, right? It's the best team in the NFC, best team in the AFC. The 49ers beat the Ravens in the process of winning a Super Bowl. They're like hands down, we like all that talk where people kind of have been like, oh, they always handle themselves like they're the best team, but like they haven't proven it. They, at least looking at this year, can be like, we proved that we were the best team in the NFL this year. So that win would feel really gratifying
Oh
for sure,
yeah. I mean, yeah,
but also
absolutely
very
for a number of
scary.
reasons.
Lamar's.
Yeah, I mean there's a few, right, that I think would be like cautious matchup, but that's the point of it, right? There I don't think there's any like Super Bowl that you walk into and you're like, yeah, like we're going this is going to be easy, you know. That's the point. That's kind of the point. So, yeah, I mean, I seen people mentioning the Bills as well. That's a great one. Like, yeah, they're kind of a team
I
that's
would love
getting
that game
hot
just because I
later
like to.
in the season. So that would be interesting. The Browns, I mean, you can't count them out. There's a reason they say defense wins championships. And I think I'm kind of predicting a Browns Ravens NFC championship, and I think that would be awesome because then they could knock one or the other out. But yeah, I think those are the three
Would you be
teams that
scared to go
more
against Joe
likely.
Flacco again? Would that be like a little bit of a
Yeah, that would be a little more
ghost from the
PTSD
past?
for us. Because I don't think
How
he
good
gets
about
enough credit
himself does
for.
he feel if he beats the
Yeah,
49ers like
man,
10
don't
years
put that into
apart?
the
You're like,
universe. Don't put that
that's
into
so
the
good.
universe.
Sorry, sorry. I know I think Ty left. He was like, this whole stream is bad juju. Goodbye. Sorry about that. Um, this team says KC will choke. I mean, when we're talking about I was kind of setting up that it would feel that's the one good thing is if the 49ers go to the Super Bowl, I do feel like whoever they play, maybe besides the Bills, although in my opinion that would just be a fun game, but if they play the Chiefs, they're like slaying dragons of the pack. Like, okay, you got one on us, well, we have one on you. If they play Joe Flacco, they're like, screw you, Joe Flacco, you're not winning again. Like, we're rewriting it. It's gonna feel like
Yeah.
in Seattle this year again when we won in the or not when the 49ers beat the Seahawks on Thanksgiving, like how gratifying that felt. So that's how that would feel if the 49ers win against Joe Flacco. If they beat the Ravens, then, you know, hey, in 2023, the 49ers were the best team. So it does feel like out of all three of those teams, not only are the 49ers winning a Super Bowl in that made up scenario, this thought experiment that we're talking about, but also they are kind of killing demons of their past, which is kind of
Hmm.
cool. And then
Yeah.
for the Bills one is kind of cool because it's two teams that maybe in both of their respective conferences have always kind of almost been there and tried to be there and at times in the season been the best team in their conference, but never like made that hump. So even that would be a really amazing storyline. Someone said, "What about the Dolphins?" Then there's the storyline of Mike McDaniel versus Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah.
I
I mean,
all these storylines.
Yeah,
it
the
kind of
NFL
sucks.
could make a storyline out of any of these matchups, which
Yeah.
with the 49ers, which is great. They'll like that.
No, but would you be scared about the Dolphins at all?
So Bradley Chubb, isn't he out for the season now
With
for them?
ACL.
So that's pretty
Yeah.
big, obviously, for them. I don't think I'd be scared of them, really. No. I think the 49ers could beat them.
I completely agree. I really liked going over. I feel like the one bad thing about this week 18 game not super mattering is the storyline does change a little bit. So it is interesting to kind of hypothesize about the Super Bowl because it feels like the next great storyline is really going to be the NFC versus AFC matchup. But I'm sure whoever we play in the first playoff game will also be really exciting. I'm even excited for the bye week. I kind of like weeks where you can take note of other teams and how they're playing and kind of try to size your team up to them. Um, we're gonna end off. I want to ask you, do you think Brock Purdy is a top 5 quarterback? We've seen him for over a full season of games now. Um, he's had up and down games. He's performed historically well for the 49ers, breaking records. Now, I will say with the passing record, I don't know. Do you feel this way? I feel like the fact that Jeff Garcia had broken Steve Young's passing yards record kind of not cheapens it, but it shows that like there is also a progression of time and this is more of a passing league than it was. So it's not necessarily saying that Brock Purdy is like better at, or more efficient at passing than Steve Young was. That's not what the award means, but it is like Kyle Shanahan gave him a game ball. Like it's not like we're the Texans and that's like a meaningless record. Like this is a really storied franchise with amazing quarterbacks who have performed, miracles, been superheroes to teams. I know that the reason I'm a fan of the 49ers is cuz to my dad these people were, guys who could walk on water. So, it is an accomplishment. Now when we're talking about who the 49ers are going to play in the playoffs, if they are going to have that ability to win in the Super Bowl. Obviously, it's a team sport, but having a quarterback that you feel confident in is really important. How is your confidence in Brock Purdy? How do you feel like he ranks up to other quarterbacks in the NFC and then also in the NFL as a whole so far, early on in his career?
Yeah, so okay, asking like if Brock Purdy's a top 5 quarterback feels like asking is Brock Purdy elite, which I'm not
Okay.
putting them in
Yeah,
that
yeah.
conversation yet. Statistically this year in 2023, this season, Brock
That's such
Purdy
a
has
hard
performed like
question,
a
right?
top 5 quarterback. Yes, it's a loaded question, right? Like cuz
How do
for
you interpret
one,
it? Is it
yeah, for one,
numbers?
it's very subjective. Like everyone has a different opinion on the top 5 quarterbacks in the league, but there's a lot of names that will overlap, right? The Patrick Mahomes, the Josh Allen, the Lamar Jackson, right? Like you'll see a bunch of those names. We've already
Can
named
we
3.
name 5? Can we name 5 that we both can agree on that are better than Purdy? We both
Sure.
can agree
Yeah.
Patrick
Let's do it.
Mahomes.
Yes.
Can we both agree Josh Allen?
Yes.
Can we both see this goes to the hard thing because Joe Burrow this season we'd say no, but I think Joe Burrow would be in that.
Yeah. Yep. I'd put in there too.
I mean, they
I
literally played. Not that they played head to head, but we played the Bengals before Joe Burrow went down, and Joe Burrow
I'd
looked
say
quarterbacks that looked
Stafford.
elite. That was like his best game of the year. Joe Burrow's
Yeah, I
game against
was. I
the
know.
49ers, like he's
How
never
dare
looked
he?
so
How dare him?
mobile.
I'd
Lamar
say
Jackson.
Lamar Jackson. I would say Matthew Stafford.
Okay,
So
see,
that's
and
right.
now
That's 5.
would
And
people debate that
there
because he's
might be
older?
more. There might be some more, right?
Yeah,
Uh, but I'm just not thinking of those guys like Herbert. Like we didn't mention Herbert. Uh,
I think Herbert would
talent
definitely
wise, I think Herbert is like up
Herbert.
there. CJ Stroud. But like, okay, here's my thing. The way that I define elite is not something that you just earn with one season. Like you have to kind of prove that you're elite in this league, right? And I
Right,
think it
because
takes
like
more
Dak
than one
Prescott
season.
had an elite season, right? Like he's right
Yeah,
now, I think I would
yeah,
put
a
Dak Prescott
season, an
as like
elite
a
season, yeah.
he's probably like he's like in that second tier. Like he's really good, but he's not like Patrick Mahomes. But he had a season where like if you were only grading him off that season, he would have been in the Patrick Mahomes tier. So that's kind of what you're
Right,
saying,
right.
where you're like you need more evidence and more time to like actually solidify your real ranking.
Yeah, and Randy's asking statistically. Yes, I think like we're talking about like this season. Yeah, I think Brock Purdy's been top 5 statistically, but we're not putting him as like a top 5
The issue
quarterback
is
in the league.
the
It's
issue
like
with
different.
statistics too is like Jimmy Garoppolo was like a top 10 quarterback on the 49ers, and he's
Not
a backup
but not
now.
in like every category. Like there's still some like categories you can like,
There we
kind of
go.
suss
And
out and
and,
be
and
like,
I think everyone can agree that see Josh Allen has 10 he has interceptions, but he's also like carrying the team. I feel like most people can agree that if Josh Allen was on the 49ers that they would the way that they win the game might look different, but I think that they would be equally as successful. Like they would
Mhm.
I don't think that Josh Allen would be a downgrade in any way, Randy, even though he does have a higher turnover percentage than Brock Purdy right now.
Yeah, I mean, and also, yeah, I mean, this season he struggled with interceptions, and there's some that were pretty egregious for Allen early in the year. But yeah, he's kind of prone to that. But at the same time, like I think you see, he's also a top 5 quarterback. Like you could see that, right? Like Brett Favre, like threw a bunch of interceptions too. Um,
Yeah, I like that. I like that. Like just because you throw intercept, like their play style is so different that it feels almost incomparable. But I think that majority of fans can agree that for right now, based on longevity in the league and how they've been able to play and the teams that they've played on with the talent and coaching that they've had, that Josh Allen would be a better quarterback. And that doesn't mean that Brock Purdy, like if he kept up this level of play forever, like he'd be, probably elite. So we're not set. We're kind of trying to fit his place. I think easily you could say he's top, you know, 12, top 15 right now. But there's a lot of you're projecting into the future with certain guys, like when you were talking about CJ Stroud,
mhm.
and you're kind of basing some people off the past. Like if you're going to talk about Matthew Stafford, although he is playing really well right now, but Aaron Rodgers would be a guy that like if the 49ers would the 49ers see they wouldn't right now because he's literally injured this very second. But like next season, if for one season all NFL rules changed, bets were off, and the Jets and 49ers could switch. Would the 49ers rather have Aaron Rodgers coming off an ACL, but like able to play? Like if as long as he's able to play, but coming off an ACL at his old age, would they rather have Aaron Rodgers next season or would they rather have Brock Purdy? That's such an interesting question, don't you kind of think?
Yeah, but I think they'd rather have Brock for the sake of like the pay difference. Like that's literally that
Yeah,
makes
and
the
that
decision so
everything's
easy.
the same.
Okay.
Or is that's kind of that I don't even know. Maybe that's like not a fair experiment.
But even then, yeah, I mean, but even then, like you're thinking about the youth of Purdy. Like
Yeah.
he's still improving, so
But what if after 1 year it switches back? It's just like a 1 year, the NFL is, it's Sabrina the Teenage Witch. It's a parallel universe type of thing. I
I
didn't
mean, it'd
even
be
watch that,
nice.
but I feel like it's a good callback.
I'm not a big fan of Aaron Rodgers, so this is like
I
I
love
would
that.
be so annoyed. I'd be so annoyed if he
I
was
didn't
on
like
the
him as like a
49ers.
person, but I
But
do think that Kyle, I think they would, whether or not they would do it, I think they would think about it for a second. But you're
yeah.
right. He is like a little bit of a diva, and you kind of have to start then thinking about personnel and the way that this team is kind of like all of their skill positions. Everyone is so selfless with the ball, with everything. And then you think Aaron Rodgers might come in and kind of like disrupt the like flow and like the Broccoli is from an emotional leader space really like did you see that clip of him and Trent where they look so happy and Trent like I feel like these older players that do maybe they also see this as their opportunity to win a Super Bowl. I feel like they seem very happy and like they can see it right there too. But
Yeah,
like,
for sure. It's a big
yeah.
year for Trent.
But there were some other things that we'll get to a different week because we're headed up on an hour. It was really good to chat with you, Steph. I'm glad that we were able to make it work today. Thank you everyone for joining in the comments. There was a starred comment. Did we let me see. All right, Steph, official playoff pick,
Oh no.
NFC wild card, and onward. Go. Pick.
Michael is asking me to pick who's gonna win the games. I was trying to find a bracket, like a literal bracket, but they don't have that. Because I'm trying to think of the first round. So the first round would be Cowboys and maybe Packers, the way that it stands right now.
Oh,
And
that's so
so
interesting. I would love
I
the
would.
Packers to win that game.
I know. I mean, they could, but they're pretty inconsistent. But they
Yeah,
could.
they're so younger. They feel like a team that's gonna get better. You know what I mean?
And
They're
Dallas would be at home. So I think I'd give that one to Dallas, but it would be a really close one. And then Lions and Rams. I think I'm gonna go Rams, and then Eagles and Bucks. I'm gonna go Bucks for that one.
that's crazy.
I go
I
Bucks.
really like all
Oh,
these
thanks,
games coming up.
Michael. I didn't even realize he was putting it in the chat. You're awesome. I was just staring at the playoff picture graphic on that website, but lock it in. Yeah, that's those are my picks. I locked it in. There you go.
I want to do. I want to do. I want to do Packers. I want the Packers to win. I don't think they will. I think if it was like a gambling, like if you were gonna bet actual money on it, you should do Cowboys. But I would love. This is not what I think would happen, but in my what I would like to happen scenario, I would like the Packers to win against the Cowboys, the Lions to beat the Rams, just because, like I said, I'm for some reason pulling for the Lions. There's like this, I still see them as like a, this sounds bad, like a pathetic little team. Like I'm like, oh, they made it. This is so cute.
You like pity
Like
them?
we should give them a win just
Yeah, you
because
like pity
it
them.
doesn't
Yeah.
matter. So I think that they should win. And then I agree with you. I like the Bucks beating the Eagles. If the Eagles
Bucks
lose in
playing
the
good.
first round, are they gonna fire Nick Sirianni?
I don't know. But things would get really interesting. I'll say that.
Yeah, it's so crazy. It's crazy how like turned around they were. People are in the comments. The way Philly's playing, the Bucks can pull it off. Eagles are frauds. For Nick Bosa came out and he was like, "We put the blueprint out," and everyone was like, "Yep, you did. We're gonna copy it." But yeah. Okay, everyone, thank you so much for joining in the chat. I hope you guys all have a great Tuesday. Usually it's Monday, but yesterday there was any Monday Night Football. It's all changing so fast.
Yeah.
I'm excited for the playoffs, but I'm not. I like all the football throughout the week. Come back. Did you watch the college? There was college football. I didn't watch it,
No,
but I know Jim
I
Harbaugh
didn't.
won, which was
I did
good.
not.
Go Jim
Yeah,
Harbaugh. I like that the
Harbaugh.
49ers fan base like still really roots for him. It's kind of cute.
Right.
But I hope everyone has an excellent week. Join tomorrow. I might be streaming with Vish. Is tomorrow the 3rd? Originally I was supposed to stream with Vish, but he may or may not be literally in India, so I'm not sure. If not, I'll be doing a stream with Jose from SI, and we're going to talk about some of those articles. I mentioned the Tom Jensen one earlier when I was talking about the Lions. I really appreciate him. He's been doing streams with the coach on YouTube, and I think he has some good insights. So make sure to like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm also, I think, like 20 hours away from being able to take super chats on my own. So that's pretty exciting. And then make sure to like and subscribe to Steph's channel. Thank you so much for joining me, Steph. We'll see you next week after hopefully an interesting game. Yeah.
Hope so. All right.
Bye.